All right, buckle up for a deep dive, a story that'll make you think twice about judging by appearances. We're going deep into the life and crimes of Pleasant Pruitt.
Pleasant Pruitt.
Late 19th century America. This guy is like something out of a true crime novel.
Yeah.
We're using his Wikipedia page to guide us, going to try and untangle this whole mess of suspicion, societal expectations, and a whole lot of darkness hiding beneath a very respectable or seemingly respectable facade.
It really is fascinating, how much perception matters.
Yeah.
Pruitt, I mean, he was considered a pillar of his community, successful, respectable, a true family man, but under the surface,
Oh, yeah.
a totally different story.
Like a total, classic duality.
Right.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves before we jump into all the dark stuff. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Pleasant Pruitt, born around 1840, Edinburgh, Indiana.
Small town.
Yeah, well-off Protestant family.
Deep roots.
Oh, yeah, very established. And Pleasant, he was known for his intelligence and respectability.
Model citizen.
Pretty much. And then he marries this woman, Miss Van Meter, from nearby Rushville. They have 4 kids.
Wow, 4 kids.
Alice, Leslie, Ethel, and Clyde. Like, picture perfect, right?
On the surface, yeah, totally idyllic.
The all-American dream, at least from the outside.
Right. But you have to remember the societal context.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Late 19th century, a man's reputation was everything.
Made the man.
Exactly. And for someone like Pleasant, wealthy, good standing in society, that reputation, it was a shield.
Oh, totally. Like, blinded people to what might have been really going on.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder, did anyone, have a bad feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Or were they all just so caught up in this image of him that they missed, maybe some warning signs?
Well.
Because then, 1888,
Okay.
things take a dark turn. Pleasant's first wife dies suddenly. Poisoning. Yeah, I mean, now, today...
It's a huge red flag.
Oh, for sure.
Especially in a marriage.
Exactly. But back then, things were different.
Right? Societal structures, they kind of, protected men like Pleasant.
So they just accepted it.
It seems that way. Limited investigation, societal pressure to just, keep things calm.
Keep up appearances.
Exactly. And this reluctance to believe that someone like Pleasant, a man of his standing, could do something like that.
It's wild to think about how different justice was back then.
Right.
It really makes you think, what if someone had said something? What if the authorities had dug a little deeper,
Yeah.
Could they have prevented what happened next?
I mean, it's possible.
Because a few years later, Pleasant, he remarries a woman named Naomi Huffman. And for a little while, life seems, normal.
Okay.
But then 1896, bam, tragedy strikes again.
What happened?
This time, Pleasant says he accidentally shot Naomi while cleaning his shotgun.
Oh my gosh, 2 wives.
I know, right?
Under such strange circumstances.
Statistically speaking, you gotta be suspicious.
Oh, absolutely. And some people were...
Really?
Yeah, but remember, Pleasant still had that reputation.
Working in his favor.
Yeah, and unbelievably, a jury believed him.
No motive, right?
Right, lack of clear motive. And I think, maybe they were still holding on to that image of Pleasant, the respectable guy.
So he gets away with it again?
Legally, yes. But
what?
The trial, it really took a toll on his finances.
Oh, of course. Expensive.
Very. And that's actually going to play a big role later on. Sets the stage for some real financial struggles down the line.
So what does he do?
Well...
He starts traveling.
Running away, maybe?
Maybe. Eventually, he meets his third wife.
Third wife.
Winnie Berry in Iowa City.
Okay.
And they move to Indianapolis, bring Winnie's 14-year-old son, Jesse, with them.
So starting over again.
Again, almost like he's running from his past, constantly starting fresh.
It's a pattern.
It makes you wonder, was he doing it on purpose?
To escape scrutiny?
Yeah, or was he, I don't know, just trying to find some kind of normalcy after all the loss?
It's a good question. About human behavior, what was driving him?
Was it calculated, or was he just desperately trying to, outrun something inside himself?
His own demons?
Yeah, but whatever the reason...
It doesn't work.
It doesn't, because in Indianapolis, that carefully constructed world, it starts to fall apart.
Oh, no.
Financial problems hit hard.
Oh, yeah.
They have to turn their home into a boarding house. Imagine the stress.
A lot of pressure.
Oh, tons. I mean, not only are they dealing with money problems, but now they have a house full of people.
Adding to the tension.
Exactly. It's like a powder keg.
Right, and Pleasant, despite being smart, he really struggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, he becomes melancholic, withdrawn, and he starts clashing with Winnie big time over the house, how to manage it, everything.
A recipe for the sick.
They're arguing constantly, boarders start leaving because of it. The money problems get even worse.
The once peaceful home
Becomes a battleground.
It's almost like the weight of keeping up this image, of respectability, and the money troubles on top of that.
Too much.
Too much for him to handle.
And it all explodes. In a horrible, horrible way.
Yeah, it does.
It really does. Welcome back to our deep dive, picking up where we left off, this unsettling story of Pleasant Pruitt.
It's wild how, societal expectations, the lack of scrutiny let him just,
Flying under the radar.
totally fly under the radar for so long. I
Yeah.
mean, today, with all the forensic stuff, DNA, fingerprinting.
Oh, yeah, and the psychology, we understand so much more now.
Exactly. This case should be totally different.
Completely different. Let's think about the first wife's death for a second.
The poisoning.
Right, we talked about how they didn't really investigate, but I think it's important to, like, really picture what investigations were like back then.
Limited.
Extremely limited. No DNA testing, no fingerprinting. They barely even understood toxicology.
Wow, so different from what we're used to.
It's a different world. The tools we have now, they just didn't exist.
So how did they even, determine the cause of death?
Basically, they relied on what people said they saw, eyewitness accounts,
Okay.
and very basic medical exams.
So in a poisoning case, like with Pleasant's first wife,
Speaking intent, forget about it.
almost impossible.
Nearly impossible. Even if someone thought something was fishy, getting proof, actual evidence, it would have been
A nightmare.
a total nightmare.
It shows how much, societal norms and the limits of science back then.
Intertwined, yeah.
Yeah, it created this system where someone like Pleasant could,
Get away with it.
yeah, potentially get away with murder.
And it keeps happening, this pattern of not really looking closely enough.
Right, right.
With the second wife, the accidental shooting, it's Pleasant's reputation again, shielding him.
He's the respected guy, the grieving husband.
Exactly. Who's going to question him?
It's like everyone was so convinced he was a good guy.
The community's perception was so strong.
Yeah, that even with two deaths, two suspicious deaths,
They'd rather believe it was just bad luck,
then face the truth.
that maybe he was responsible.
Okay, let's talk about something else for a minute.
Okay.
This whole pattern of moving on, starting new families.
After each wife dies.
Exactly. Is there something psychological going on there, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can't diagnose someone from the past,
Right.
but it's definitely interesting to think about the psychology. Maybe starting fresh in a new place.
Like a clean slate.
Yeah, it could have been a way to escape, the gossip,
The whispers.
the whispers, exactly. Reinvent himself, distance himself from what happened.
Bury the past.
Exactly, but it also makes you think, was he really feeling any guilt?
Remorse.
Yeah, was he actually grieving, or was he more worried about protecting his image?
And not facing consequences.
Right, and then we have the financial problems. It's like, that's what really pushes everything over the edge.
Like losing the money, it was the final straw.
He loses control. He's not the successful businessman anymore.
Not the provider.
He's failing, and he has to face that.
And on top of that, the boarding house, the stress, the fighting with Winnie,
It's a pressure cooker.
and it blows.
Tragically, it blows, and everyone gets hurt.
I gotta say, this whole story, it's really gotten to me,
Yeah?
It's one thing to, read about these historical figures, but to really get into their lives, the context,
It add a whole other dimension.
it really does. It's heavy.
What I find really interesting is how Pleasant Pruitt's story, it doesn't end with him.
It keeps going.
Yeah, we always talk about the criminals, the victims.
Of course.
But what about the people left behind?
Picking up the pieces.
Exactly, especially young Jesse, Winnie's son.
Oh, man. He lost two mothers, walked in on that scene.
And now he's stuck in this legal fight over his stepfather's estate.
It's awful.
And it's not even like there's a fortune to fight over.
Right. Pleasant was basically broke by then.
Totally. They're arguing about technicalities, who lived in the house longer, the victim or the killer,
It's
detached from the human side of it.
Exactly. Like trying to make sense of something that's completely senseless.
Right. And what about Jesse? Did Winnie's family take care of him?
Did he end up okay?
I don't know.
It's those unanswered questions that really stick with you, huh?
They do. We can put together the events, analyze the time period, but
It's never complete.
no, we can't know what Jesse went through, how he dealt with it all.
Makes you think about, the ripple effects.
Oh, yeah.
How violence touches everyone. Families, communities.
Generations even.
It's like a chain reaction.
And it reminds us that we need to remember everyone affected. Not just the names we see in the headlines,
The silent victim.
the children, the neighbors, the people who saw it happen. Their stories matter.
We have to look beyond the surface.
Always.
See the human cost, acknowledge the impact on everyone.
And Pleasant Pruitt, he might be a figure from the past, but his story, it brings up these issues. Societal expectations, perception, the consequences of violence.
It's all still relevant today.
Absolutely, it's a reminder to stay aware, to question things, and to never underestimate how complex people can be.
Because sometimes the worst monsters, they hide in plain sight.
Behind a mask of respectability.
And a system that cares more about appearances than truth.
Exactly. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the life and crimes of Pleasant Pruitt.
It's been a dark journey, but hopefully it leaves us all a little more aware.
More willing to ask questions.
And committed to finding justice for everyone affected by violence, both the visible and the invisible.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Keep questioning everything.